Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Hope as you navigate during this season, you're having a chance to refresh and reset and get ready for next year. But don't fast forward too quickly. Make sure you enjoy the moment. Make sure you enjoy the relationships and the people around you that really make life worth living. And then as you begin to transition, a lot of people are already thinking about next year. So in this video, we're going to focus on unwrapping 3 keys to crafting prosperous client connections in 2026. Of course, during this season, we talk a lot about gift giving. And for some people, if you go to certain Christmas parties, right, there's a lot of regifting that goes on. Maybe not just at the party, maybe even at your own house. So the gifts I'm going to give you today, the purpose of these is actually to regift them to someone else next year. And you'll see what I'm talking about. So number one, we're going to focus on being remembered, not just getting registered. So I call this the stocking stuffer principle, because most businesses, the focus is on just registrations. Just put your name on the list, get into the portal, get into the platform. But there's something more significant that you need to be doing, right? If you want to be remembered, how are you building connections that add value? And in a practical sense, again, if you're talking about, in this case, buyers that maybe at corporations or even, individual customers or even at, government agencies, what's valuable to them? What's important to them? How can you be an asset and a resource for them even before you get a contract, right? Just something to think about. And so that stocking stuffer could be a short insight, could be a resource, could be a follow-up connection that you help them to make, it could be an idea that you help them solve a problem. See, oftentimes when we think about connections, especially from the standpoint of building connections with buyers and decision makers and companies, we don't think as much about the value of the relationship and how we add value to the relationship. Oftentimes we're thinking about the value we need to receive from a relationship in the form of a contract. Well, we got to think beyond that. We got to think about, again, because these are people who are making decisions, right? On the other side of that table, if you will, the other side of that computer screen. And so they have problems, they have issues, they have challenges, right, in executing their jobs. And so how do you make their job easier, right? How do you demonstrate your value to them that's going to go beyond just getting the next contract, all right, or winning that RFP? So you got to think about you're a solution provider. That's what you are. That's what your business is, right? You're a problem solver. And your business as a solution is solving a problem for that corporation or for that agency. And so again, how are you adding value? How are you thinking about their roles, their positions, and what you can do to make what they do more efficient, more effective, and more impactful? Because that's going to allow you to be remembered, not just registered. You're not just a name or a company name on a list or in a portal. You're now a person that they've connected with. And so now when it comes time to make decisions, you can float to the top of mind because they remember how you solved their problem, right? Or just added value in a conversation or through information that you were able to share. And then all of a sudden now that transitions to the next opportunity and you're not occupying real estate in their mind, if you will, in a positive way. So that now when it comes to make decisions, they have another data point, if you will, right? They have another aspect with which to evaluate you and not just what your website says or what your brochure says or your portal profile. So let's wrap this one up right here. Remember, decision makers don't award contracts to businesses they recognize. They award contracts to people they remember. So key number 2, you want to reduce risk before asking for opportunity. This is the peace of mind gift. Because again, profitable connections are built on relief, not just excitement. And when I say relief, I'm talking about pressure relief. Because oftentimes buyers are under pressure. Decision makers in these companies and organizations and agencies are under pressure because they're under pressure to solve problems. They're under pressure to fix things, right? They're under pressure to fulfill needs that have gone unmet. That is their role, to find companies, suppliers that can help them solve their problems or fulfill their needs. And so they want to know that the businesses that they deal with in terms of operating in the contracts that they facilitate is allowing them to sleep peacefully at night, allowing them not to have to worry about even on the weekends something going wrong or something being broken. And so when we talk about peace of mind, that really comes back to risk, because anything that they perceive as high risk is going to bring stress, not peace, right? The opposite of peace. It's going to bring stress and chaos, if you will, in their mind, even maybe in chaos, right, in that office environment. So one way for you to do that is anticipate objections before they arise. That allows you to make sure that you were thinking about the problem that they were thinking about before they were thinking about it, and you provided the answer before they could even present the problem. I'm not going to repeat that because I may mess it up the second time. But it really comes back down to you thinking about the risk factors in your own business or within the context of a project or an initiative, and you're anticipating the issues or the red flags, and you're coming up with solutions in advance. Again, you're anticipating objections before they arise. Next, show how they can handle delays and disruptions. This goes back really into key number one. You're projecting into the future. You're navigating even through what could go wrong. Not that it will, but what could, and what's the contingency for if something doesn't work out right? Because nothing ever goes perfectly. No matter how well you plan out a project or even execute it, something is going to be a little off that's different from the way you planned it. You also have to plan for that contingency. Are you prepared for that contingency? And can you demonstrate to those decision makers on the other side that you're ready to deal with issues, challenges, problems, the unexpected? Because that's going to give that decision maker a peace of mind. And again, always communicating clarity instead of just confidence. You want to be confident, but you also have to be clear about your plans, your processes, your strategies, your tools. Whatever you're going to be deploying is not just that you can talk good, right? I'm joking with that, right? Or that you can present confidence. You need to present confidence with a plan. We need to present confidence with a step-by-step process, right? You need to present confidence, but that you've thought through issues, challenges, things that could come up that would cause stress on that decision maker on the other side. Because remember, you're crafting prosperous connections, and you want to be proactive in that from that standpoint. So if you can give them peace of mind by maybe the data that you're able to present, the plans that you're able to present, how you're able to let them know you're thinking about the things that could go wrong, and you've already got a contingency in mind that you can implement, or even things that you've done in the past. And here's a key thing: if you've done it in the past, you bring it into the future. If you solved the problem in the past, that's also another great way to build a case study around that you can actually present to that buyer to say, hey, I've been through this before. Here was the project. Here's what went wrong. Here's what went right. Here's how we made it all work together. That reduces some of that risk, stress, right, that those decision makers and buyers have. And if you're able to do that proactively, it's another way to craft a prosperous connection with those decision makers. So we're going to wrap up key number 2 here. Trust accelerates revenue faster than persuasion ever will. Down to key number 3. Key number 3, this is the last gift I'm unwrapping for you that you get to re-gift next year. And it's show up with proof, not promises. I started to kind of weave this into the previous point, and I call this the gift receipt rule. Bring the receipts of the good things. Bring the receipts of the impact that you've had. Bring the receipts of how you've helped your customers win. Bring the receipts of how you've helped your customers grow. Bring the receipts of how you've helped your customer navigate problems. Everyone says they're reliable, but few can prove it because few have documented the past where they've demonstrated reliability. And again, that doesn't mean that more people and companies aren't reliable. Many of them are, but they just don't have the documentation to back it up. And that's all we're saying here is document it, prove it, right? Lock it in so that you're ready to present that information. Because again, it really even goes back right to the previous one, bring peace of mind. So the gift receipts allows you to bring more peace of mind to those decision makers. Something to keep in mind as you want to build those prosperous connections that will favor your business. Document what works. Go back, document processes, document outcomes, document changes, document challenges, and then how you overcame those challenges. Document. And you want to get documents that are relevant. As you're thinking about the type of customers that you're pursuing, type of contracts, the type of opportunities, make sure your documentation connects to things that are relevant to them. And this may even require you to rewrite maybe a case study you've already done, but rewrite it and make it relevant to the context that you're going into, right? So that it's easy for that decision maker on the other side to see how it's relevant for them. Don't make them have to guess. and see where the relevant points are. Just rewrite it and have it a couple of different versions that are all true, but versions that highlight different elements, right, that are most relevant to that client and customer that you're trying to engage now. Track outcomes, not just activity. Don't just show where you're busy, but show impact. This is a key gift that I'm sharing with you that you want to re-gift, right, to the decision makers you engage with next year. Is you want to talk about impact. You want to talk about outcomes. You want to talk about the results that were gotten, not just that you managed the project, but was the project managed on time and under budget? Not just that you executed the delivery, but that the delivery you provided was able to save the company money or save them time or allow them to execute more efficiently. Those are the things that you want to talk about. And then show evidence of repeatability, that you've done it several times over and over and over. This is just what you do, right? Because you've been able to develop a process or a system that allows you to get repeated results, not just these one-offs from that standpoint. And so one of the key things, of course, that you can do with this is make sure while you're documenting that you're also getting those customer testimonials, those customer referrals, and get them to document the referral. If you had a great conversation and you got some verbal feedback from a previous customer or client, and they were telling you how great you did, ask them to write that down, right? Ask them to send you an email. It doesn't have to be long. You want these things documented so that it's more receipts, right, that you can bring to say, hey, we're good at what we do, but we've documented how good we are. And guess what? We're not the only ones saying it. Our previous customers and clients have said it too. And we all know the most inexpensive and oftentimes most effective marketing is a satisfied customer, but nobody knows about your customers if they haven't talked about you and if you haven't been able to document that. All right, so let's wrap up key number 3 here. Buyers don't fund hope, they fund predictability. I'm going to go over these 3 keys again and just summarize them. Be remembered, not just registered. Reduce risk before you ask for opportunity, and show up with proof, not promises. So that's what we're going to be doing in 2026, to craft these prosperous client connections. So let me just close with this. In 2026, the most prosperous client relationships are not just going to come from louder marketing or bigger networks. They're going to come from businesses that provide these gifts: relevance, peace of mind, and proof. All right, so enjoy the rest of this year. Get ready to have an incredible and prosperous 2026, and I will see you there. God bless you.